at no point, and I've done dozens of these, at no point did I stop and go, you know what? I should check all these other things that blow these things up. And I didn't do it. And what happens? The vehicle is sitting outside right now with all sorts of problems. Hey everybody, David here, and welcome to the ASOG podcast. In this episode, we sit down and have a conversation with Chris Martino of Opus IVS and Trained by Techs, and we welcome back Dusty Harrison, the shop foreman at E1 Motorsports in Houston, Texas. We set out to talk about technician ego, but that got derailed early on. What follows is Chris and Dustin's opinions on several diagnostic tools, as well as a scathing review of my diagnostic abilities as it relates to Ford 5.4-liter timing issues. But before we get started, please take a moment to hit that like button if you're watching this on YouTube, and if you like our content, consider subscribing to the channel. If you're listening to this on your favorite podcast listening app, make sure you're set to automatically download the latest episode so you never miss an upload. And now, here we go.
So the topic of conversation is something that we're all well versed in. Arrogant technicians, technician egos, and technician attitudes. And Chris, we brought you because you are the expert of technician ego.
Well, I have no ego, so I am not an expert in anything.
Oh, don't try me.
But yeah, I do deal with a lot of ego all day long. Agreed.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're like in this really tough position because you actually have to take telephone calls from people that already know everything. They're just calling to tell you you're wrong.
Well, that's usually what it is, right? So usually you get the guy who's been to the ringer with a diagnosis, missed something, replaced parts, got the boss yelling at him, and you got to get through his ego before you go, okay, fine. Did you check that ground?
Right. You know I did. Well, why don't you go double check it?
And then that's and honestly, that's one of the first things I learned when I took this job because there's no class on how to become a good tech support person, right? So like when I go through all the steps and I ask the guy, well, did you check this fuse? Okay, cool. That wire is good. Okay, cool. That harness is good. You tugged on it? Yeah, that's good. Okay, you checked that ground? Yeah, I checked that ground. Okay, did you load check everything? Yeah, I load checked it. Well, then I don't know why it doesn't work. And then it took a while, and then the guys around me, what they would tell me is like, listen, sometimes they lie to you. I was like, oh,
so, why would they do that?
Yeah, if you're going through everything and nothing makes sense, somebody's lying somewhere.
So I think you've met Eric before that works for me. And I hate to pick on him. Eric had this like crazy medical emergency this week. He runs up the stairs and he's telling me about a car. And the dude like starts slurring his speech. And I'm like, Eric? And he's looking at me confused like, oh my God, I can't talk. And then he just heads to the ground, and scared the crap out of me. So I can't talk too bad about him. He's okay. Everything was fine.
And now we got that little bit. What happened?
Yeah. So, when he first started for me, there was a 7.3 Power Stroke out here. And I said, I want you to go down. It's pouring the rain, dude. It's absolutely pouring the rain. And I said, go down, key on, see if you have communication, see if you have any trouble codes, and tell me, does the check engine light or the wait to start light come on when you key on? He comes back and he says, no communication, wait to start light doesn't come on. I said, okay. What I want you to do is I showed him where the fuel heater connector is. I said, I want you to go unplug that, and I want you to change this fuse number. I want you to pull it out, check, make sure it's not blown. He comes back a few minutes later, and he said, it's not blown. I said, yes, it is. He said, no, it's not. I said, it is. Go back and double check it. A few minutes later, he comes back, and he said, there's nothing wrong with that fuse. I said, I promise the fuse is blown. That's the craziest thing I've ever heard. Go check it. We go through this 3 times. And finally, I'm like, whatever. We'll drag it in here. We drag it in the shop. I pop the hood, walk around, and I put my finger on the fuse, and everything comes to life. And I said, dude, I told you, check that fuse. He's like, I did. I put a voltmeter or a test light right on the top of it. I said, dude, what in the hell? Pull it out, and it's got a piece of wire wrapped around the bottom of it. Like, that's not checking a fuse, dude. Come. I couldn't imagine being in the tech support role. I would end up being charged with a crime.
Well, for me, my worst thing is this, right? Because they hired me for Volkswagen and Audi because reasons. So like we would go and I'd be doing a CAN diagnostic with a customer, and then we go to a module. We want to test a module. I'd be like, okay, we want to check your powers and grounds. All right, so I give pin number 63 on a 23 pin connector, whatever it is, right? And I said, let's load them down, let's check them. Next thing I hear beep, beep. I said, what the fuck is that? Like, oh, that's my power probe. I'm like, do me a favor, take that piece of shit and throw it into the garbage.
Me and you will go round and round on that though. But yeah.
But here's the thing. I have two power probes. All right. But here's the thing. Use it where you're supposed to use it. Like I try to explain to the person. I was like, okay, this module that you're going to want to condemn, $1,200, not returnable. All right. And you're testing something that puts zero load on a circuit.
Yep, exactly.
To see. I mean, what if that thing, that wire that you're trying to test has one strand in it, just one strand? It's going to light up and say you got 12 volts there.
That's
Put
it.
a freaking. Do you have a test light? Yeah, I got a test light. Okay, fine. Give me a test light. All right, go plug it in. Well, what do you have on that one wire? Well, it glows red. What kind of test light is that? Well, it's an LED test light. Fuck you. Throw that thing out.
Exactly. Literally. Right now, throw it away.
And then it's, okay, does anybody else in the shop have an incandescent test light? What's that? The little one that lights up with a bulb in it. Okay, cool. Well, get that. So I plug it in. So they go get that. And they plug it in. There's nothing there. And I was like, and then we're going through tests for 5-10 minutes. And I realized, did you ever check this test light to see if it worked? I plug it positive, negative, the battery doesn't light up. This is how this goes. All right. And the biggest thing that bothers me is you go on a tool truck, see if you can buy a test light. Can you buy? I know at least by me, you can't buy a test light on a tool truck now. You get an LED test light. Can you go on the Snap-on truck and get a test light?
You have to ask for a scope on a rope. That's what you ask for. Scope on a rope.
A scope on a rope.
Scope on a rope. They'll hand you a test light. Like old school incandescent light bulb test light.
Yeah, but what's crazy is you can't even buy those on a tool truck anymore. Like I can't even say what day's Maco day, what day's Snap-on day, and go on the truck and get a test light. They'll sell you an LED test light for $60. You can't even get
buy Load Pros. I think I saw a Load Pro on one of the tool trucks.
We're not going to talk about Load Pros, but Dusty, I do agree. And a power probe is good for certain things, but not load checking powers and grounds.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. Hey, it was the hook that had the little feature you could push the button. It was supposed to load it, and it would tell you if it was good or not.
You ever do that on an injector circuit?
No, I haven't. I never did it in the first place. What are you talking about?
So, yeah, it's the thing. So it's great, right? The idea is to load check a wire, right? I could tell. I remember I had a Crown Vic come in and had a misfire, and I thought it might have a bad computer or a bad injector circuit. I put an injector and it didn't fix it, whatever. That's before I started learning how to use a scope, which honestly wasn't that long ago. But the boss had the power probe hook. I'm like, all right, this has got this load feature. No matter what, it tests bad because there's not enough oomph on the wire to make it work. Either that or I was doing it wrong. The best load is a light. Put an H7 bulb on it.
Yep. I agree. So here's the thing though. Does the ego get in our way?
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
You think the ego, you know, and look, I'm guilty of it too, right? I think we're all guilty of it. I mean, what do you say to that technician? And I guess maybe the bigger question is, do you think a technician like that would actually be listening to something like this? Or a shop owner? I got a message just a little bit ago from a chick talking about her business partner. Mm-hmm. And she was saying like, nope, He won't go to training. He's not interested in it. He says that his business is not like anybody else's, right? like there's no way they can tell me how to run my business. I already know how to do that. Mm-hmm. And I think I take this perspective and I look back and I say, it wasn't until I began to listen to other people and see how other people did things that my business actually began to work, right? I tried to wing it myself and that failed miserably. And the same thing with a lot of the cars that I've worked on, right? Until I began to listen to other people and look for resources outside of my own head, dude, it was a struggle. I mean, it was tough.
Well, me too, man. I was the same way when I had my first shop. I was 23 years old. I thought I knew everything, and I was my own worst enemy with that. I thought I knew everything. Everybody came to me. I was the shop people came to. I was just really good with a parts cannon, and it took me getting over my ego to realize that. Oh yeah. I was Annie fucking Oakley with the shotgun.
What's wrong with the load pros?
What's wrong with we're not going to get started with the load pros.
No, we don't know what's wrong with the load pros. I'm looking at the load pros. I'm like, this is kind of cool. I like the load pros.
It is kind of cool, but it's not it's not the best. It's good, but it doesn't give you the load that it puts on the circuit. Load. Yeah, the load that it puts on the circuit is not enough.
Right. Well, half an amp. But here's the thing. What I use mine for, right? I love the Load Pro for like basic sensor wiring, VREF circuits, stuff like that. I'll throw the Load Pro on it all day long, right? Big stuff, no way. Injector circuits, stuff like that. I go and find a real load and put on it.
You know what's great about the Load Pro?
What?
The book that comes with it.
Oh, dude. Hey, have you his explanation?
It comes with it, but
dude, the book is pretty
it tells you basically at what amperage, what resistance it should be at, and stuff like that.
Yeah. It's like electricity for dummies. Is basically what it is. It's awesome.
He's a really nice guy. Very interesting fellow. If you watch,
who are you talking about?
The guy who developed the Load Pro.
The guy we're trashing on right now. Calling us tool garbage.
Oh,
I used the crap out of a Load Pro too.
Why don't you talk about Dorman?
Oh, ouch!
Well, I've never heard of it. I'm interested.
No, I mean,
I was looking at Brandon. Brandon Dills has got that high amp load test light.
Yeah,
Duma bopper.
I was thinking about getting a couple of those for my guys. But here's the cool thing: is his videos, the Load Pro guy's videos that he provides. They're all over YouTube, but the way he explains loading a circuit is brilliant. If you ever get a chance, go look it up.
And also the way he explains that this is the only way to do this, and I am smarter than you. And if you have any other ideas other than what I say, you're an idiot.
Scotty Kilmer in it.
There was a
is it the guy with the glasses, or is it the old guy?
No, not the old guy.
That's wrenching.
You know the best thing that a Load Pro is actually for. The best thing a Load Pro is good at is vehicle draws. Like a Load Pro works really well for that. I mean, really well. I mean, you can basically go over top of your fuses in house, man, and isolate a circuit with a Load Pro fast. So, I mean, and that's one. Nice. That's one.
I had never thought of that. Yeah,
but that's what I use it for the most. Is
that's a badass idea, Dusty.
Videos. What'd you say?
Basically, you'll
say it again. I was watching YouTube videos.
Oh, yeah. No, when you have intermittent power draws or a power draw, constant power draws on a car, basically, you hit all your locks, let the car go to sleep, do this, that, and the other, and make sure that your draw's present and whatnot. And you can go over the fuse box, fuse boxes in cars nowadays, man, and you can actually isolate the circuit with the Load Pro fast. So, I mean, that's what I use the Load Pro for the most.
Because when you push the button, it makes a complete circuit.
Well, not only that, it does some other things too.
That's an awesome idea.
I don't. I have no idea what you're talking about. Like I cannot visualize it in my head.
So you got two leads that go to your meter, right?
Yeah. Okay.
The other lead comes off of the Load Pro, and you ground it because that's how you load the circuit, right?
Okay.
That's where the ground comes from for the load for the circuit. If you do that the opposite way, you can actually load that circuit. In other words, you can provide power to that circuit, right?
Through the fuse.
Am I explaining that right?
Well, sort of. Or you can just see which you kind of see which fuses is.
Shoot a video.
I will. I'll make one. I'll have to make a draw, but that's not too hard to do, man. But yeah, I mean that can happen.
Is it any faster than using thermal imaging?
No, I mean,
dude, yes, yeah, thermal imaging. You got to wait for the car to cool off.
Yeah,
before you can use it.
Listen, I just do the voltage drop across the fuses and I'm done.
Yeah.
No. First of all, I want a Dusty video because I've got a Dusty video. I cannot play it with children around.
But yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like, it's got to be legit because we're gonna post this on ASOG like, just for him.
Way off in the left field.
I'm not talking like that. It's just
Well, we're just gonna pretend you're talking like that and roll with it. What about an amp pound?
Well, amp pounds work.
That's
yeah, the amp pound is probably going to be your faster ticket, because I mean that actually takes all the calculation out of it in your head, man, for like doing the voltage drop across the circuit and all that stuff. Amp pounds are quick too. Okay. I mean, I've had other guys
stick to my amp pound then.
Yeah, I mean that's another way to do it, but I mean we all do this for a living, so I mean it's not that bad. I actually use a power probe a lot, and there's videos of me chasing communication issues with a power probe 3. I don't like the 4s. I have a hook, and I use it seldomly. It's just I don't think I've gotten inept with it enough. I've been using a power probe 3 for 2 decades, decade and a half. A long time.
I think we use the hook because you can adjust the amount of. Yeah, you can set the circuit breaker. So if you know that circuit, it's like, okay, we can't jam whatever amount of power we want into the circuit. So if the circuit has a 5 amp,
you're not trying to let the smoke out of a circuit.
Right there, you're using it wrong.
No, but
that right there is what's wrong. You should not be putting power in something you think you could blow up.
No, listen, we don't tell David that kind of thing, right?
You check things for power. You're not going to go power up a circuit, not unless it's like a headlight bulb or something like that. You know what I mean? Or, like a tail light.
No, listen.
Hold on.
That short wire is a whole lot easier to find when it's on fire.
No. I don't understand. I'm legitimately asking here because I have no idea. Okay, so I'm asking here. If you need to power the circuit on for whatever reason, I mean, how else are you going to power the circuit on? I mean,
all right.
So
give an example, David.
Go ahead. You want an example from me?
Yeah. Just give an example of what you're trying to power up.
Here's
a window.
Okay, so where are you powering it from? The switch or the actual motor itself?
Sure. Let's say at the motor. Let's just say
at the motor itself. Yes, power probe all day long. At the switch,
you're speaking like it's absolutes. Then I mean, so in some instances, it's okay to use a power probe to load the circuit up. Like I'm not trying to turn on a module or something like that, but at the same time, like sometimes you just want to supply power. Most of the time, it's so I can load the circuit up. Like I'll isolate. This is what we mostly use the power probe for. Is we'll isolate the circuit so we can check a run of wires, and we want to measure voltage drop across this section of wire. We'll hook up a power probe to it and jam 12 volts through it, and then check our voltage drop and see if it's okay.
So that's where as a diagnostician, I would disagree. Okay. A couple reasons. Same reason I don't like the bench test parts. All right. Because you want to do a loaded voltage drop with the circuit as it's designed. You're using different amperage, you're using different conditions to power up a wire. All right.
I have a technician that works for me, and he's like, "Well, we need to check it in its environment."
Yes.
And I tell him he's crazy.
No, he's not crazy. No, he's not crazy. Think of it this way. All right, you got a purge valve. All right, we're not going to talk about Volkswagen purge valves because they're horrible out of the box. But you got a purge valve, right? You think it's bad. You take your power probe out there, put 15 fucking amps through it. It's gonna work all the time because you're putting all the balls through it. But if you're using it as designed, maybe it'll fail.
Yeah, it could be drivers like. But I mean, you also got to be. I mean, a power probe can be very dangerous. Like you don't want to go, powering up a brushless fuel pump with a power probe. You know, I mean, it's, you know, things like this. I mean, or anything that's pulse width modulated, which in, you know, German cars is damn near everything nowadays.
Well, you got to know your circuit. That makes sense. Like, you should know your circuit.
Yeah, so that's why I stick with a Power Probe 1. It's a good ground, and if I want to power a power door lock or light up a headlight or a motor, that's good.
See, I like the Power Probe 3 the best, I think, man. So, because I mean, you can actually hear the circuit going. I mean, and when you get comfortable enough with the tool and everything, like I mean, you can, even a bad ground and stuff like that. I mean, that bitch will go just like he said. But you can look at the screen and see that there's 0.01 volts on it. And that's a ground. It's like up. Now I need to walk to my toolbox and get a fucking light, you know, because this actually needs to be loaded. But I mean, it's just, don't be dumb with it, just like anything else. The ego thing, I think we need to go back to retract too, because I mean, Chris and Justin Morgan will probably get together and harp on this. Power Probe is dangerous in the wrong hands. It is very.
Yes.
I mean, every tool has its place. There's times where you can actually see something with the Power Probe, but hey, look, this needs to be verified because this ain't right. I mean, and then you can even like, the Power Probe in itself too is like, you can look at the circuit and see that I have, you know, 12.3 volts or something like that with the Power Probe 3, but my red light isn't lit up and I have no beep going on, but I can see voltage. Okay, now I know that, hey, I need to go get a light again, you know? So, I mean, there's other ways around it. You could even stab that thing on, you know, 6 or 14 on some comm lines, man, and just listen to the message being received. I mean, straight, it's like Morse code. It'll be an in-depth, you know, steady, constant message received that's coming through on sound on 3.3 volts. So I mean,
so you listen for beeping or steady to see if you got one dead can line.
Yeah, basically, and then that makes me all right. Now I need to go.
Back in the day, now I need one.
Yeah. But now I need to go over to my toolbox. I need to bust out an oscilloscope. I'm just saying that's my first look tool for everything is a Power Probe. I'm not going to lie.
Mm-hmm. Well, Dusty is clearly going to get hate mail over this.
I don't care.
But again, let's tie this back.
Where did the Power Probe get such a bad reputation? I don't understand. Like, is it just like
out
that?
Of modules?
Cool. Yeah, literally.
Is it really?
Yeah, have you ever seen a half-blown fuse?
Oh yeah. No, I understand I learned my lesson on a Grand Cherokee with a half-blown fuse. It just had a hairline crack. If you looked at it, it looked fine, but it wasn't powering on the PCM. That's the car wouldn't start. And so, I mean, you had to check it with an old school test light, and all of a sudden, like, you didn't have any. You had voltage, but you didn't have any light, and you knew the problem. You traced it back. We found it. Car started right up. I learned my lesson, but it seems like the hacky mechanics first tool is the Power Probe.
Well, and again, that's how I wanted to tie that back into the ego conversation, because again, that you have to get past that ego of no, my Power Probe is the best tool on the planet, and you have to get past the ego and explain why maybe in this case, maybe not.
Is it maybe that they're intimidated by oscilloscopes? Because, I think that's more of an ego thing.
Oh, I didn't even get the scopes yet.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think that the techs with the biggest egos tend to speak over everybody's head intentionally,
right?
To make them sound more sophisticated. And it's like, oh, well, I don't use that. I need my 8-channel blubbity blub, and and OE only, and this, that, and the other, and it's. I mean, they're just,
I found the opposite. They most of the super arrogant techs don't have that data to pull from.
But you know what's funny? Because I actually have a friend who thinks he knows everything, and he's one of those guys that if you bring up a conversation, he's done it.
I didn't know you were friends with David.
I know a lot about very, very little.
Hey, so I don't mean to interrupt.
If you fall Chris, in my space,
Chris, you've got to keep this thought. Listen, you keep saying what you're going to say over and over again in your head while I say this. David, Mike Byers, I ate lunch with him recently. And he said, I just want you to know I lost a lot of respect for David Roman. And I said, why is that? What happened? Did he say something? He said, yeah. He said he put timing chains and phasers in a 5.4 that had 100,000 miles on it. He's a dummy. And I said, well, I mean, I could have told you that, but.
No, this thing had almost 200,000 on
Yeah.
it. It was such a bad idea. I don't know. I have no idea. And we went sidetracked. We solely screwed up Chris's thought. No, I didn't. No, Dusty. No, I didn't do it. Okay. I didn't do it. It was all wrong. I shouldn't have done it. I don't know why. I thought I wasn't even thinking. It was just like, this is what's broken. I'll fix it. At no point, and I've done dozens of these, at no point did I stop and go, you know what? I should check all these other things that blow these things up. And I didn't do it. And what happened?
All you needed
the
was
vehicle is sitting outside right now. With all sorts of problems.
All you needed was a hot oil pressure check. That was it. That's it. But yeah.
That's the last.
I don't even work on Fords, and I know that.
Scott Laster diagnostic profile. Yeah.
Hold on. Okay, let's just assume that the hot oil pressure was off, though. At this point, now we're having to what? I'm having to check crankshaft end plate. That's where we're at right now in this vehicle.
No, you put a motor in it.
Yeah, you put a motor in it and be done.
Hot oil pressure is low. It gets a motor. Duh.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to cost you more to fix.
There's got to be a way to fix this thing without me putting a goddamn engine in this thing.
No, you're going to put a motor in it.
Why?
Yeah. Because that's how you fix it.
If is low, it's getting a motor. That's all there is. That's the only option.
No, that's BS. I'm gonna fix this thing. Screw you guys. I'm gonna fix this.
Hey, you know how you fix
this thing?
Buy a 5 gallon,
two bottles of STP honey. It's good to go.
No, it'll throw cam phaser codes. I can't do that.
No, you'll do a lockout kit. Don't lie to me. You'll lock that bad boy out.
You know what? That is a fantastic idea. This thing is a beat to hell fleet truck. I just need to get it running without codes. Like, he can't stall out. That's what it's doing. The flipping thing is stalling on me. I hate this truck.
Chris, what were you saying, buddy?
I want to continue this conversation. This is great.
Well, we are talking
5.4 kit. Who makes a good one?
For engines and transmissions. Call and order the motor.
No. I'm trying to avoid putting a goddamn engine in this thing. I don't want to do that.
It needs one though, man. So I mean, there's that. I mean, you could order 5 gallons of Lucas and just go ahead and put it in there, and it'll make it last a little while. But even with a cam lockout phaser kit,
I've got all the 5 gallons you need, big boy. Don't you worry.
Yeah, so my point was this is I forget. Anyway, I got this friend. Yes, I believe not. I do have friends. Now, look, I know Dustin. I even got his phone number, and he even calls me back and answers the phone when I call. But I got this friend, and he's one of those guys when you talk to a conversation. One of those guys when, like we were talking before, Lucas. You know, you're at the bar at Vision talking.
Right.
He's done the thing you're talking about. He knows how he's going to fix the thing you're talking about. He knows the people that built the thing you're talking about. Which is kind of impossible given how old he is. But like you get in, but I sit back and watch, right? And everybody buys the bullshit and thinks he's really this awesome dude. But then you get then you just sit back and watch him get into a technical conversation, and he shuts the fuck up.
Yeah.
Why? Because he has no idea what he's talking about in his ego.
See, that's a really interesting point, right? Because
what's wrong with that though?
Well, hang on. Everybody that I've ever met that really knows, like for instance, one of the people that I hold in extremely high revere is Jim Kokonis, right?
I love Jim.
And if you get into a conversation with Jim doesn't say this works like this or that does this or I know this person or I know that person. And let's be real, those people who do that, we all struggle with them. David, you should get help. It's tough because you just want to have a conversation and feel real. And now you're feeling inferior and you're feeling like, well, gosh, he knows but what's the first thing that Jim does when you're having a conversation with him? When you're talking about something like that, he asks a question.
Oh, he asks questions to make you think you're wrong. That's what Jim does. Whenever I talk to Jim, all right, and I start the conversation, all right, halfway through, I'm like, am I an idiot? I must be wrong. What does Jim know that I don't know?
Meanwhile, he's just having a conversation. Hold on.
He's just having a conversation.
Right. And that's the best part is because all of a sudden you learn something right? Because that's how he communicates, but that's how he learns. And now he's talking and he's asking questions and he's making you think about your strategy differently, right? That, to me, that's the sign of true intelligence. That's when we're not talking about ego anymore. That's, hey, let's ask a question about it. Let's form this in a different light as opposed to talking about what we know about it. Let's talk about what we don't know about it, right? And those who are just like my business coach, right? When we talk about my business, the first thing he always does is ask a question. When you're on the tech support line, what is the first thing you do? You ask a question.
Mm-hmm.
You're gaining information. You're gathering the information you need. So I think there's a differentiating factor when we look at somebody who already knows everything versus someone who comes in and says, gosh, I really don't know. What information do you have? What data do you have? Right? That, to me, like, I talk about this sometimes. When we hired our service advisor that's running the front right now, we talk about bringing scenarios in front of a new hire. Tell me about a time when this happened. Tell me about a time when you ran into this, right? And I said to him, I said, I've got a tractor, and he was working in agriculture. And I said, I need to bring my tractor in. How much is an oil pan? And he said, Mr. Underwood, I don't know what it would take to put an oil pan on your tractor. The first thing I need to know is, what do you use your tractor for? What kind of tractor do you have? What is its daily usage? Because I can't just tell you what the right thing for your tractor is. I need to understand what you're doing with the tractor. I need to understand what the tractor is, what engine's in the tractor. We need to have a conversation first. To me, that's a sign of intelligence. Whereas somebody that already knows the answer to it, it's not that they're not intelligent. I don't mean it like that. It's that they're blind to the rest of the world around them. They're blind to that scenario they can't envision coming up. And that's how we get burnt. That's how we get caught in a scenario that sucks.
I just want to say, you said tractor. I'm like, okay, he's talking about tractors now.
Tractor.
He's talking about tractors now. I don't know nothing about no tractors.
I don't know
sometimes.
Hey, I think Volkswagen built some tractors years ago. You'll be okay.
Yeah. Well, let's not talk about Volkswagen's history, okay? Because
we're not going there.
It didn't start out so well.
It got dark quick.
But I wanted to get back to the ego thing too, because I mean, now before we get all off of it, I mean,
we abandoned that conversation 5 minutes ago, man. I don't know.
Do you want to talk about the early years of Volkswagen? Because we could do that too.
No, we should probably talk about egos. That plays into that as well. But seriously, the ego thing, egotistical maniacs.
I don't know what the problem is.
Is that part of being a technician though?
That's a dumb transitional question. That's awful. I'm asking.
Start over.
I'm curious why you think it's a bad thing for the guy to stop talking the minute you start to get into more technical details. Like, isn't that?
No.
Into a situation.
What I mean by stop talking is it's time to to join in the conversation and add things to it. And because he has nothing to add, he's no use to the conversation. That's what I mean. When he goes silent, when actually talking about things to do.
I think sometimes though, like, I tend to do this if I just don't know anything. If I don't have anything to add, like, what do you want me to say? Like, I don't know. Like I told you earlier, I know a lot about very little. Okay, mm-hmm. And I stay in those lanes. Exactly. Otherwise, I don't engage in the conversation because I don't want, it's the whole Benjamin Franklin adage.
It's the whole picture. You don't present yourself as the guy who knows all the things, and the guy who wrote all the things, and the guy who wrote the laws for all the things.
I've been called arrogant a time or two, but the whole Ben Franklin thing. It's better be thought a fool and remain silent than to open your mouth and remove all doubt. Right. So
arrogance,
just don't say anything.
Arrogance is a little different than ego, I think, to an extent. I mean, you can be arrogant, you know what I mean, and still, be teachable, I guess is what I'm looking for here. But I mean, when you have a solid ego issue, man, there is no teaching a lot of times. I mean, you're never going to be wrong.
An interesting distinction there, because I think a lot of people they mistake confidence with arrogance. Does that make sense? Like they see somebody that's confident. I have very confident technicians, but they're not arrogant. They could be perceived as arrogant by the wrong person, usually of lesser intelligence. They'll perceive one of my technicians as being arrogant, but they're confident in their abilities, but they're not egotistical because they'll stop and they'll ask questions when necessary.
That's good.
Yeah, that is very good.
What the ability to stop and ask for questions before digging yourself a hole. that is something
but I think
to be desired.
that confidence, though, to stop and ask questions when it's necessary, I think is vital. And I think that's what makes, like Dusty's saying, I think that's what makes the distinction between somebody who's arrogant and somebody who's egotistical. The egotistical guy may not ask questions. They don't want to be perceived as not knowing because they're not confident in their abilities. They're not confident in what they know. They're not confident in what they're saying. So in order to not be perceived as a fool, that they'll see themselves as lowering their social standing or whatever in the conversation or in the dynamic within the conversation. So they'll say, well, I'm just not going to ask any questions, or I'm not going to say anything, or because I don't want to seem stupid. But somebody who has confidence, I mean, they don't care. They're interested in learning. They're interested in engaging, and that's it. That's because they're confident in their knowledge, their abilities, their intelligence. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Can I tell a story?
Fell asleep.
Yeah,
tell a story.
Yes.
All right, I'm going to tell a quick story here. I got kicked in my balls very, very hard on a gray market 80s G-Wagon, CIS car, and all this stuff. I've had this thing for a long time, rebuilt the front axle, done a bunch of other things to it throughout some time. And guy wanted, just some maintenance done. Like, car came in running. And, it got towed out, basically, with two valves that are now seized in the head. So, I mean, we're not going to go there. I fucked up. And I fucked up so bad to where it got to the point to where I ended up calling another shop. I called Mike Haven because he's like 267 years old and knows these old Mercedes CIS, cars very well. He was probably the guy that was building them back in the day. But I actually called him and I said, Mike, I need some help. I'm going to tell you this G-Wagon. He's like, dude, you can fix this car. You can fix this car. You can fix this car. I'm like, at this point, I can make more money fixing modern Audis. And this thing is nothing but lost time and lost money for me. It's lost revenue. So, I mean, at this point, I'd rather just pay somebody else, fix it, and let me pick it up. And this is the first time I've ever done this, probably in the last 5 years, man. And it hurt, for one car to actually leave. And it hurt. But it was the right call.
But thinking about it, having that weight off your chest and having somebody else that you know is going to handle it, that's got to make you feel better.
It does and it doesn't. I feel like one beat me. You know what I mean? So, I mean, and that's that right there. That's the kick in the balls part of it, man. But in the same breath is, now we're punching Audis out the door and, this one loss versus, all of the income that we're actually receiving instead of me being days in here, not knowing anything. I don't know anything about these cars. I've learned more in the last few years on this thing. And I think the biggest lesson I learned is don't take in G-Wagons and don't take in gray market cars. And don't take in a gray market G-Wagon.
Well, exactly.
Well, you just can't get out of your wheelhouse,
100%.
right?
I totally, and that's a good lesson learned, especially you as a business owner.
No,
you can't be
anymore.
doing that. Your job is to make money.
No,
but you are responsible. You are responsible to your employees to make sure they get paid, right? You're responsible to everybody in the front. I mean, you got a job to do.
But you got to understand that was, having to tow a car out. I mean, luckily I knew the right people. He decided, hey, look, we'll take this in. I mean, and yeah, we'll do it for you. I'm like, oh man, full rate. Got to learn this lesson. But he's, it went over there yesterday. I seen it leave, and I think I came home and I slept pretty good. So But that was, I mean, I think that was where I didn't want to let the car leave for the longest time. And it was because of ego. I'm like, I can't let it win. I can't let it win. I can't let it win. And then it was finally time to concede. It was finally time.
But is there a lesson to learn? Kind of stay in your lane, right?
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah.
I mean, and this is, it's a long story, but we're not really, this is a friend. He's got a couple of other cars. He's got a couple of Audis. He's got a smart car. He's got a Ferrari that I've done a bunch of work on and stuff too. But this G-Wagon, he even told me, he came up to the shop yesterday, you know, after we had towed it down to Mike's place. And he was like, Dusty, we're still friends. I'm still going to bring you cars. He's like, I understand I'm a car guy. We've all had fast cars. You know, you're a really good dude. You know, this isn't going to affect anything. I'm like, man, you say that, but I'm still like, this is heavy on my heart, man. You know, so I mean, to actually admit, you know, I'm a pretty good technician. I mean, and that's ego aside. Like I can get around and do pretty good, but you know, the one that didn't get fixed is always the one they don't remember the 10,000 cars that you have fixed. It's always the one you didn't.
I think in your head.
Yeah,
that's what you remember. Yeah, because honestly, and I want to tell a story. I want to tell a story about you right now, Dusty.
Okay.
Because there was one that kicked my ass. I don't remember. It was last year. I called you on that S8 with that V10. With the timing problem. Okay. I was lost. I had an Audi V10. There was a customer called in with a timing problem. And I couldn't figure it out. Reason is this V10 isn't just some regular motor you can buy parts for. No, because Lamborghini wanted a motor to put in their car, so Audi built them one. But they don't give you any information on it. And the car was out of time, or at least it was saying it was out of time. So you could either take the engine out to check it, which is ridiculous, or you can use a scope. I'm all about using a scope, right? All right, so fine. But where's the known good pattern? I have no good pattern. I don't know anybody who has one. My first call was to Dusty. Like he's one of my first calls when I need something, because like if I haven't seen it, he has. And like I got no problem making a phone call or you know trying to ship something to somewhere, you know. And he took the call and he took it. I mean, it's all about asking for help.
I mean, even you remember the low oil pressure Audi with the timing codes and stuff like that.
Oh
man,
yeah,
that one was a workout, man. There's a check valve underneath the head. It's a one-way check valve that is not listed in EDCA. And like that one gave us a run. Like it was back and forth between you and me on that. I mean, that's a two-way street between the two of us, though, too. I mean, it was even a few nights ago, or it was not a few nights. It was a couple of weeks ago. To me and you were talking, you know, because I'm doing a DQ 500 swap on my car, which has a
5-cylinder.
No, I'm doing a DQ 250 swap into the S3. And I'm gonna have some coding issues here soon, but I mean, there's gonna be a phone call probably involved in that too. But the DQ 250 or the DQ 500 can handle, you know, twice the horsepower. So I mean, I blew my transmission at 650. It ain't gonna hold 1,000. So I mean, but that's neither here nor there. But I mean, when me and you have conversations, usually it's an hour long. So
yeah. And it's just a split. Yeah, I remember that when we started talking about you're doing some kind of weird swap on a car that, you know, you're going to put a later model in an earlier car, trying to get coding to work to try to work it normally. And yeah, we're trying to come up with ways to actually get this car to work because it doesn't make sense.
But we finally figured out we went with a standalone system on that, so it made it a whole lot easier. But yeah,
well, yeah, standalone's fine. If you don't got to smog it, standalone's just fine.
Yeah. But I mean, even here, man, you know, you get some $20 bills over the eyeglasses, and you know what smog. But yeah, Texas is great. But I mean, I mean, you got to understand that there is a lot behind ego, and I think I have a lot of ego, and I do, but I don't mind asking for help when I need it. And you know, I honestly think that me and Chris, we know the right people to ask.
We just made that distinction. That's not ego. It's not ego. It's just confidence.
But it can be. Yeah, but
you're confident in your ability. You know when to ask.
Yeah, I mean, there's no one knows everything.
Thinking you're going to fix that G-Wagon. That's ego.
That's what kept Dusty from holding on to that for that G-Wagon for a little too long.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I had this thing for like a year.
You know, there's plenty of cars sitting here at the shop that are entirely my ego. It's me thinking, we'll figure it out eventually. No, that thing needed to get pushed out of here and crushed long ago. And I sometimes, like you were saying, Chris, you
put a motor in that Ford yet?
I'm putting a lockout kit in that Ford. Somebody told me lockout kit.
So I got a question, Dave. You're in North Cackalack?
Hell no! Come on now, don't you be throwing that shade at me like that? Come on.
Yeah.
Me.
All right. Cool. So
Who?
yeah. So
me.
Yeah, you, Dave.
I'm
Yeah.
in Kansas.
You're in Kansas. Even worse. All right. So like, but I know here in Long Island, having a car here, with the way land costs, 2-3 cars, project cars taking up room, that's costing you hundreds of dollars a day. It's ridiculous. So you got to let go of the ego real quick, and then you start making some money.
Well,
so when you're talking about flyover country, there's lots of space out here. That's what
it is. Yeah.
Hey,
so space isn't the problem.
40 parking spots,
here,
dude.
Space is a problem. You know, you're paying $10,000 a month for a 2-bay shop and like 5 spots. You know, yeah. So having that ego car is costing you a lot of money that you don't realize to satisfy your ego.
Dude, I have got 40 parking spots. And I load them full
we have
a
small lot too, man. So I mean, I can get that. I mean, and pushing this G-Wagon off and on the alignment lift every damn day gets old. So,
well, you're pushing it up the alignment. Is your alignment lift flat or does it go up a little bit?
Yeah, dude. What do I work on? Can you answer that question, please?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no.
You work on expensive shit.
No, it's not. No, not always. I work on trash too. But we have an in-ground alignment lift only because we do a lot of suspension work and we have some exotics come in and stuff like that. And it's just I don't want 19 feet of ramps.
What do I work on? What do I work on? I'm sorry.
That
what was
ego.
I thinking?
That ego.
That damn ego right there. I work on Chevrolet Cobalts. Let me tell you, with busted control arms.
Hey, I had a. Go ahead.
Go on. Oh, I want to hear a Dusty Cavalier story.
Cavalier story.
No, I owned a Cavalier. This was, I don't know, probably 10, 12 years ago. I'll have to try to find some pictures of it. But I was working at a muffler and tube chassis shop a long time ago. And we done a full tube chassis and put an LS motor in it, and it just saws all the floor pans out of the damn thing and dropped it on. That was a fun car.
Dustin can't just have a normal Cavalier.
Yeah, I know.
Dude just can't deal with a quad 4. No. Let's put an LS in it. Why? Because reasons.
This was the 2.2, man. The old, single cam 2.2.
Push rod 2.2, yeah.
Yeah, push rod. Yeah, that was an indestructible motor, man. The good old days. But I mean. But yeah, I mean, that was. I remember my wife wrecked it. My ex-wife wrecked it, and she didn't say anything about it or anything because we didn't drive this car in the rain because it would not hook. She wrecked it, and it was coming in on the rollback, and I was in the shop, and I see the rollback coming. I'm like, that looks like my car. I see the wheels and everything. Like, that is my car. And dude, I hit my knees and cried like a little girl because I was like 2 years of build.
That's kind of funny.
So, yeah, it is. It is. And now I'm doing the same thing all over again. I haven't built I had a Prelude after that was fat. It was like running 42 PSI. That thing would lift the whole right side of the car up when it would blow off. That was fun to drive. And then here I am. I still do this. I'm still a kid. Always been a racer. They always say there's no replacement for displacement, man. But with these modern 4-cylinders with dual VVT and turbo systems and stuff, man, these cars flat out get it. You don't need V8 anymore.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode of the ASOG podcast. If you'd like to catch these episodes early, you can do so by becoming a patron. Just go to asog.site and click on the Become a Patron Now button. Becoming a patron helps support the show, gets you several perks, and is tax deductible. Make sure you're subscribed to the podcast and on YouTube so you never miss any of our upcoming episodes, including a whole bunch of new videos we'll be dropping very soon. And as always, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, shoot me an email. My email address is david@asog.site. That's DAVID@ASOG.SITE. Until next time.